Now, moving on, a third of all referrals to the UK's Prevent Anti-Terrorism scheme are children under the age of 14. Shocking Home Office data shows nearly 7,000 people were referred to Prevent between 2022 and 2023 due to concerns that they were susceptible to radicalisation. Joining me now is Dr. Alan Mendoza, the Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society. Just give us firstly, if you would, Alan, your response to that headline, that a third of these people who've been referred to Prevent are in fact kids.
Well, it's a shocking statistic, it's a shocking news story, full stop. And I think it reflects something very badly going wrong in our society. If young people are indeed being radicalised to the extent that parents and teachers are referring them to this programme, that clearly tells you we have a major problem at a very young age of children being able to access extremist material and indeed then deciding to sort of take that on as their own philosophy. So clearly something's going wrong and we need to put it right.
It's quite hard to avoid extreme. I mean, I don't know how they decide whether somebody should be referred to it. Does a teacher look over a kid's shoulder and see them on a social media site looking at something a little suspicious, whether it's extreme left-wing, extreme right-wing, something else, whatever? I mean, is it that? Because it doesn't take much, does it, to pick up your phone and find something that you could call extreme these days?
Well, I suspect it's more than just viewing something. I would imagine that for a referral to take place at this level, what's happening is that people are concerned over a period of time with a pattern of behaviour from a young person, and they feel that that is warranted, an intervention is needed just to find out what's going on. I mean, just remember, of course, a referral to Prevent doesn't mean that, immediately somebody is then taken into custody or such like. There's a whole program that's designed to see what's going on with a young person. And I think, early intervention is key. And in a certain way, we should welcome this, not because we want to see young people radicalized, but because if it is being picked up, then it means that we can intervene early and stop it from progressing to a much more serious stage.
And in terms of where this goes next, there is, of course, or there was at one point, it seemed, a real focus on Islamic extremism. That, we are told, that profile has changed somewhat, and now there's a big focus on right-wing extremism, and there is a suggestion, from what I understand looking at this report, that many of these young kids are in the latter category.
Well, that's correct. But if you look at the Prevent review from earlier this year, the William Shawcross review, what it stated quite clearly was that they've become a focus on finding, if you like, far-right extremism and then ignoring the Islamist variant and not pursuing that. So I'm not obviously happy there's an upsurge of far-right extremism, but I can't believe, given what we're seeing on our streets on a weekly basis now in many of our cities, that there isn't also an upshot of Islamist radicalism. And given what the Prevent review stated, I would have hoped that there will be some follow-through to make sure that extremism of all stripes, whether it's far-right, Islamist, maybe even far left, depending on how extreme that gets, is being picked up by the right people and being referred to experts who can assess it and intervene where necessary.
There has been a sense, and this may be completely unproven, Alan, that certainly over the last few years there has been almost an unwritten but a real desire to balance it out in terms of who is on the Prevent database. The sense that some within the annals of the establishment, whoever, wanted to get more right-wing extremists on there and therefore set the bar a little lower to make that happen. I'm sure you've heard that said before. What is your response to that?
Well, again, I refer you to William Shawcross's Prevent review from earlier this year, which quite clearly stated that was happening. It was a mistake for that to be happening, because what we need to be doing is combating extremism where it is in reality, as opposed to where we might want it to be ideologically. You see, it's always very easy to deal with far-right extremism. Nobody likes a far-right extremist. It's much harder when you start looking at extremism sometimes within minority groups, where at least some of the population think, oh, that can't be real, or it's not that important, or it doesn't actually lend itself to that. All we need to do, though, Ian, is to look at, obviously, the end point of this, which is who are the people actually being watched by our intelligence services? And I believe the figure is around 90% of those currently are Islamist suspects. So let's just work it out. If there's a balance earlier between far-right and Islamism, but 90% of the active intelligence suspects, if you like, are from one ideology, that tells you something's not quite right or wasn't quite right further down the line. As I said, you've got to look for extremism where it is in reality rather than where you want it to be ideologically.